Gwrych Castle is over 200 years old. Y'all, this is gonna be a rough video. And the settlement on the land is even older, like dating back to medieval times. This abandoned castle has become quite a hot topic in the UK and in the paranormal world thanks to the British survival TV series I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. So what is the story of Gwrych Castle? Oh man. And why are the ghosts that are haunting the castle making themselves known right now? Let's dive in and find out. Hello my spookies and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. My name is Alex and I'm a paranormal investigator, author, and blogger. I have my own team called the Association of Paranormal Study, and I've written several books about the paranormal. Cool fact, I studied abroad in Oxford in 2007. It was the best time of my life. I loved the UK and I need to go back ASAP when, COVID's over. And while I was there, I ran into a lot of ghosts, some really old ghosts, but that's a story for another time. Before we get started, be sure to hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and turn on the notification bell, and you'll be the first to know whenever I upload a new video. Also, you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter at The Spooky Stuff. I post daily paranormal content for your education and entertainment. Finally, if you want more spooky stuff like ghost stories, ghost hunting resources, blogs, then head over to my website at thespookystuff.com. All right, let's get started. Gwrych Castle is located in Abergele, North Wales, next to the sea. The castle itself was built between 1810 and 1825 by Lloyd Hesketh Bamford Hesketh in memory of his mother and her ancestors. Now, his family actually owned the land for several hundred years. I mean, we're talking dating back to medieval times. And there had been a house already on the property, and so this castle basically built over it. From 1894 to 1924, the castle was owned by Winifred Cochrane, also known as the Countess of Dundonald. And when she died, she left the house to King George V, but back then he was the Prince of Wales. The gift was rejected, and the castle went to the Venerable Order of St. John. Then, in 1928, Lord Cochrane, who was Winifred's husband, bought the castle and then sold all of Winifred's things to meet the cost. Then, during World War II, the castle was part of a kinder transport program that saved over 200 Jewish youth refugees. During World War II, the castle did sustain some damage, and then after the war, the castle actually left the Dundonald family. In 1946, it was listed for auction, and from then on, there were several failed restoration projects, some really weird business ventures. It was a meeting for people who loved scooters and bikes and motorcycles. And then from the 1970s to the 1990s, it was a site for medieval tours and demonstrations. It kind of reminds me of medieval times a little bit. And then in 1990, Gwrych Castle was stripped of its assets, and it basically became this abandoned castle that was fading away from decay. In 2018, it was bought by the Gwrych Castle Preservation Trust, which was started by Dr. Mark Baker. He was actually a kid when he fell in love with the castle, and he actually wrote a letter to Prime Minister Tony Blair and Prince Charles, and they were really moved by this letter apparently. So here we are at the present. This year, the British survival series I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here couldn't film at their usual location in Australia because of COVID, so they had to make another plan, and that plan ended up being Gwrych Castle in Wales. So the production company ITV contacted Gwrych Castle, and they agreed to pay for the restoration costs to make the castle safe to be in. Because again, we're talking about abandoned building that has been left to the elements. It wasn't safe, so ITV was willing to pay for those fees. By the way, the castle still has about 10 million pounds of restoration left to do. That's a lot of money. So now you have a brief introduction to the history. Let's dive into the first spooky story. In 1913, someone claimed to see a headless monster in the field by a hedge near the road that leads to Gwrych Castle, and they also heard a terrifying screeching sound. Then a second witness came forward and said that they also heard a screeching sound in the same area. Turns out people started avoiding that road completely, and they even packed guns with them for protection when they were going to and from work. They would take the train and take the long way to their destination instead of taking this road. That's how big this was. But then the headless monster turned out to be a sheep with a black head. Basically, the head blended in with the hedge. Whoops. Let's talk about some real ghost stories now. 68-year-old Graham Jones came forward to the BBC and said that he used to work as a knight at Gwrych during the reenactments and jousting for the castle. And he said the castle is definitely haunted. Employees used to feel like someone was breathing on their necks and no one was there, and they would feel like someone was watching them. And Graham said that once he went inside the castle and he saw this old woman sitting on the floor, and she was telling him like, you can't be in here, you can't go upstairs. And so he went and got his manager, and the old woman disappeared. After the incident, Graham saw the woman in a photograph and found out that she died long before that interaction. So that sent chills down my spine. And employees also reported hearing sounds of a phantom horse galloping and snorting. So that's interesting. I also found this story from the 1970s. A psychic visited the castle and stayed for a few weeks during the winter months, which had to have been incredibly cold. She was drawn to a room in the servants' quarters. According to the psychic, an unseen entity whispered in her ear, telling her that there was a secret passageway to the hillside. Then she got chest pains and she was gasping for air and she collapsed. Turns out, in 1915, the butler had a heart attack and died. One of the most popular and well-known ghost stories is an angry woman in white. Ugh. Many people believe that this is the restless soul of Winifred Cochrane, Countess of Dundonald. Why is she restless? Why would she be angry? Well, like I mentioned earlier, her husband sold all of her things to meet the cost for the castle. So all of her possessions were sold. It is believed that she is angry about her husband selling all of her things. What really brings a chill to my bone is Winifred has been seen walking down the hallways, and not only does she look really angry, but she has also been heard screaming. And there was a story of a group of ghost hunters that were chased out of Gwrych Castle by a glowing woman in red, screaming at them to get out. I don't know if that was Winifred, but it's entirely possible. I mean, if you sold all my things, heck no, you're not coming into my house. Another interesting story I found is that apparitions of groundskeepers have been seen around the castle. This is a very common sighting. People have even talked to these groundskeepers only to find out there are no groundskeepers there today. And given that the property is 1,400 acres, it's no surprise that there could be dozens, if not hundreds, of groundskeepers that have worked at Gwrych Castle throughout the years. And we're talking hundreds of years. Here's another one. This one I'm a little bit more skeptical of, but I want to show it to you and get your opinion. A man named Kevin Horkin made a recent visit to the castle and he was taking photographs. And while he was uploading the photos to his computer, there was one photo that stood out to him. He saw the image of a young woman looking out the window. Now, granted, this was also during a time when visitors were not allowed in the castle. People think that it might be Winifred, but others think that it could be a servant girl that had died on the estate. And she had died on the estate after she fell off a horse. I mean, could this be her? I'm skeptical because this photo seems like it's too good to be true, and also her hair seems to be a little bit more modern. I mean, we're not talking about hair from like 1920s or earlier. There are several more ghost stories of Gwrych Castle, so I highly recommend that you check it out. Now, let's talk about I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. So as I mentioned, ITV paid for the restoration costs to get the castle to a safe level for the cast and the crew. Now, there is a theory that maybe all of that restoration work, could be stirring up activity. And what really brought this whole paranormal side of the castle to the public was in a recent promo image for I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, people couldn't help but notice there was a shadowy figure in one of the windows. In my opinion, I think it could be pareidolia, meaning we're making a pattern out of something that really isn't there. Plus, the photo is grainy and pixelated, which is always a red flag. But this still freaked out the cast and crew, and apparently the crew refuses to film in that area after dark. But I've also heard that the area is actually off limits. It's not that the crew doesn't want to go in there. So given that it's an old castle that's still being restored and there's a lot of work being done, I wouldn't be surprised if that was an area that was blocked off from the rest of the group. But then at the same time, if there is a person in that window, who is it? Either way, it'll be interesting to see how the cast fares during the filming of the show. What do you think of Gwrych Castle? Do you think it's haunted? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to my channel, and turn on the notifications, and also feel free to share this video with your friends and family. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next round.